afternoon, everyone. First of all, I want to apologize for starting 9 minutes behind schedule, but we're here now, and that's what is important. Lovely to recognize all our online viewers. My name is Jeremiah, and it is my privilege to welcome you to Under the Tie, a podcast dedicated to championing men's health and also discussing the dynamic challenges that come with an ever-working workplace. And happy International Men's Day, and shout out to all the men out there. We know how hard you work and all the things that you do. So we recognize you and we appreciate all the work that you do and everything that you do. And not just because of what you do, but because of who you are. And Under the Tie, this is the podcast that aims to recognize and also discuss the challenges and also the upsides of men's mental health and also men's physical health. And because of that, we have brought to the studio with us an array of guests, people from different generations that can talk to us about different things, how to balance professional life. And we also have a medical doctor with us here who's going to be talking about the physical side of our health as well. So we're going to be asking these various professionals how they're able to balance, the challenges of work, life, family, commitments, and a lot of other things, because we have seen these people and these professionals, they have made strides in their career. They have gone far and wide, they have planted, they have tilled the ground, and they are here. And that is because they have been able to balance these things and all these factors that make us men. And right here in the studio with me, I'll just be doing a brief introduction of all these people. And with me, I have Amechi Okobi, the Chief Communications Officer of Access Holdings. Amechi, do you want to say hi?
Hello.
You can move to the camera. All right, I also have with me Sunday Okochi, the Group Head Company Secretariat of Access Holdings. Sunday, say something to your fans.
Hello, everyone.
And also, we also have Olarewaju Seriki, the Team Lead Strategy Access Bank. Okay, and we also have Mr. Omokoje Ologun, Sector Head Oil and Gas Servicing Company, CIBD Access Bank.
Good afternoon,
Good
everyone.
afternoon, everyone. And last but not least, we have with us our Dr. Oluwatimileyin Ogunkoya. Doctor, do you want to say something?
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, no problem. All right, so quickly, I'm just gonna have just run across everybody real quick and have them say something about International Men's Day. So, Amechi, what does International Men's Day mean for you?
For me, it's a day for us to be acknowledged. It's a day for us to essentially feel love from everyone. Men haven't traditionally been acknowledged the way that I'd like to see them acknowledged. This man thing is hard, and it's often taken for granted. So for me, International Men's Day is just a day for us to remember, acknowledge, and celebrate men. That's from the outside. From the inside, we need to remind ourselves that we are role models, we are champions, we are people that should lead with integrity, honesty, kindness. So there's a lot going on in my head right now about International Men's Day.
What does International Men's Day mean to you?
Actually look at it as a man. I'm actually trying and I'm proud of myself. So it's a day for us to be proud of ourselves and also be proud of our colleagues and our fellow men.
So, for those of us that don't know, the theme for International Men's Day this year is Men's Health Champions. And why we have done this podcast is so we could have an array of guests that can speak to us on this topic and see how we have been able to, or how they have been able to, put themselves in a very good space and being able to balance the pressure of career and work and their health and families and everything in between. So my first question goes out to our senior management staff, which is Amechi, Omokoje, or Sunday. My first question is for Sunday. How has your perspective on work-life balance and health evolved over the years? The many years that you have been working, your career, your life, how has your perspective on work-life balance and health evolved over the years?
Okay, so thank you for that question. I would say it has not been a very smooth journey. First started off from youth service, and there was so much expectation, so much pressure to get to know how to conduct yourself in the workplace. Fortunately, when we were in the youth service, there was no, let's say, training on what is the expectations in the workplace. So you just delved into it and started learning across just as the way as you moved on, and learning from people, learning from people in the workplace, learning from people from outside, and trying to find your feet in a town where you have not lived before. So it was quite challenging coming into Lagos for the first time. First of all,
sorry, where did you come from?
I come from the east of Nigeria.
Ekiti.
I come from the east of Nigeria.
The east of Nigeria, okay. So you came to Lagos to
The
hustle.
land of the rising sun.
Okay.
So trying to find your feet was quite a challenge. I remember those days you have to wake up very much early and find the popular transport mode, you know what I mean, and navigate your way down to VI, and was tough starting. But as time went on, we began to have a code on how the city is configured, how to find your feet in certain places, how does traffic evolve as the day progresses, and little by little, we began to stabilize, and here we are today.
Awesome. Mr. Omokuji, this question is for you. What specific habits or routines have helped you maintain balance and prioritize your health over the years?
So I would take this look at it from the triangular perspective. God, family, workplace, friends. So for me, I try to always realize that every day I wake up, it's a privilege from God. So I try and have a conversation with the Maker daily. Primarily just to thank Him for letting me see a new day. And typically now asking Him the assignments that He has for me every day, how I can basically execute these assignments. And family, extremely very important. You know, if you have a good support structure, it helps you to navigate through the terrain of work. So I'm privileged to have a good support structure, caring wife, lovely children, a good extended family as well, so it helps. And then I have an inner circle of friends that I can always confide in at any given point in time. Because for a man, you know, we tend to bottle up a lot of things.
Yes.
And when you're around people that don't judge you and, you know, have known you over the years, you can always place a call, find out time. So I try to make out time to socialize as well when I can. I think it's important to have that balance, particularly for the nature of work that I do as well. You also will meet some of your clients after work to discuss and talk on certain things. So I try to do that with my friends from time to time and get feedback, because I think for me, constructive feedback is key. So that's just how I've been able to balance and, you know, navigate this terrain of work and life.
I mean, this question, I'm just going to follow up on what he said.
Not a problem.
Right. So, like I said earlier, you know, it's a blend of generations, right? You have more experience than most of us here. And so I want to ask this question, right? In those times, like Sunday said, those days you had to dump us and everything, right? I'm looking at how things have been over the years. It is just, you know, coming into recent times that we have seen that, okay, men are beginning to be a little bit more vocal about, you know, being vulnerable and accepting vulnerability for what it is, even though it can be a little bit better, but we are slowly getting there. So imagine how it was way back then when, you know, the typical saying was, you're a man, chest it, man up. No matter what it is you're going through, you know, the typical saying, even from when we were children, when I was a child, definitely, anytime I would cry, I would be like, chest it, man up, you're a man. So dealing with, you know, all these challenges back then, and also trying to take yourself away from the mindset of you know, carrying all this burden by yourself. How have you been able to find that balance? Or how were you able to find that balance then and you're still maintaining that balance now?
So first things first, I don't understand the generational thing you talked about. In my mind, in my mind, I'm 30, maybe 31.
Okay.
That's the first thing. But you know, family is quite key. Growing up, I honestly, from a family standpoint, never got the chest it, man up mindset. So I've always been able to share and be vulnerable. even back when I was much younger, because of family. Now, outside, you know that, of course, it exists. The media hasn't helped. Movies haven't helped. Our culture and society haven't helped. So you're balancing that, but my family says it's okay to cry, but the world says no. So you're dealing with that. But it didn't hit me as hard as it's hit, obviously, many other men. But things were definitely unpleasant for men back then. It still is. The chested mindset, the be a man mindset, we have now found that is resulting in suicides. That is resulting in. So my earlier years was in the U.S. and I remember maybe in I think it was the 80s or early 90s, the term "go postal" became a thing. And "go postal" came from a fact that a postal worker, because of the stress he had been going through in his office, whatever it is, came in with a gun, killed his boss, and blasted through, I think, about 20 employees, right? So when you hear "don't go postal," you're saying don't go crazy. But it results from holding in so much, keeping in so much. And that, at least back then, started some real conversations about how to address men's health and men expressing themselves and men being vulnerable. Now, granted, it wasn't just that "go postal" moment that did it, but as time has evolved, and we're all very thankful for it, men are now allowed to be vulnerable. Men are now allowed to have friends where you're sharing. Men are now allowed to have those conversations in a workplace without fear. I always envy women. When we would run campaigns, you can give an offer to a man, vacation, spa, whatever it is, right? And he can go by himself. You don't have the woman's attention unless you say you and your friends can go. A man is not thinking me and my friends are going on any kind of vacation. It just wasn't done. But nowadays, that's also evolving, that's getting better, and men are now more able to share. I love the concept of having friends that you can talk to without judgment, without fear of just being reprimanded. Time makes all these things better. We've come from a pretty bad place, but there's still a lot of work to do in our homes, in our relationships, in our workplaces, but I'm happy where we are. And I'm looking forward to more and more and more. And these conversations help.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. Because one thing that I know for a fact, being a man, is that growing up, it wasn't the most accepted thing to be the most vulnerable, right? Like maybe it's something that's bothering you and you need an outlet. Most people were not as welcoming as now. So it's a good thing that we are charting that course. We are creating a map and also making an avenue for men to feel as welcome and as safe as they need to be, right? So Larry, I've been looking at this side since
the old people.
Well, okay, so Larry and Dr. Timlane, these questions are for you. So Larry, what do you wish your colleagues understood about the challenges specific to this stage in your career, like where you are right now? What do you wish they understood? And tying into being a man and everything.
So I mean, likely for me, I think there's a lot of pressure that comes with every stage in life, and you have to just have the belief that the next stage is going to be better than this stage. Because I remember, like Sunday said, when it started off, it was rough and whatnot. We would all have similar stories of how it was rough at the beginning, and then it gets better as time goes by. You just need to have that confidence in tomorrow being better than today, and just keep on looking ahead and believing that the next day is better off.
Okay. So how has the perception of masculinity affected your ability to ask for help?
That now changes the narrative because it's different in the workplace, because certain things you're expected to know as a man, you're expected to be more knowledgeable, you're expected to, in my daily, that's why I said expected. The expectation is always there. The why of the expectation is a different conversation. But now I'm going to the expectation and I'll go to the why. So now the expectation is you should be able to handle Excel, you should be able to handle tech. If there's a broken system, it's you that's expected to carry it. No, which is true. Because you won't expect the lady to kneel down and start removing the system. But in the real sense of it, when we all apply to the job, I never wrote I could carry system. I just said I know how to do X, Y, Z. But then it's implied that I'm a man and I should know how to do this or that. Those expectations are things that are age old and we've had to grow with and we've had to learn and then adapt with. Now the pressure then sets on you because it seems like no one is willing to learn or listen to you. Because if you're going to, we have appraisals, we have reviews and whatnot. If you're going to review a guy and review a lady, the way you review both of them is almost subjective. And you don't even know when you're being subjective. Because even myself, if I'm comparing what I've done to what my female counterparts have done or what other people, I'm also...
an unconscious bias.
Yeah, you want to be hard on yourself that I should have done X, Y, Z. Nobody is as hard and not to say women don't do so much, they do a lot more. And there are women that do phenomenal work and do much more than men do. But the pressure is always on the man that you should always have done better. So there will always be that basis of comparison. And then your senior colleagues also don't, I'm not as, it's easy for me to look at people that are coming up and say, I've gone through these struggles, so man up and face it. It's difficult for me to say that to a woman because I feel like, okay, I can understand that it's a bit tough for you. And all those pressures, it's not accounted for. But in the workplace, it creates a level of pressure and you can't even speak about it. You just have to man up and keep pushing.
Okay, awesome. I like what you highlighted about, as being a man, there are certain things expected of you. And because of those kind of pressures and these kind of expectations, it can be a little bit challenging to ask for help, if you need to do this and do that. I completely agree with you and I totally understand where you're coming from as well. For Dr. Timileyin, yes, we are talking because we are all man guys, but speaking from the medical doctor, from the medical side of things, right? And also how many years of experience you have. What moments or experiences shape your current understanding of balance and masculinity?
First of all, once again, thanks for having me on this chat.
Definitely.
I think just before I get into addressing what you've asked, I really believe that one of the beauties of conversations like this on a day such as this is that it also allows us, outside the celebration that comes with it, because it's one of the few days men get when you compare to the women getting multiple days. So this one that we have, we own it, we would embrace it. But that being said, I think one of the beautiful things about a day like this is that it also allows us to revisit the construct, examine the stereotypes. There are things that we have held on to that this allows us to question it. That does it really have to be this way? And does the man have to be a certain type of way? And ultimately, if we're able to have honest conversations about those stereotypes, about those constructs, it paves the way for a healthier life, a better life for the men at the end of the day. So in terms of the experience and what I have seen, I would also echo a thought that had been shared earlier. So and this was something that was very loud last year because the International Men's Day in 2023 was zero male suicide. So a lot of those conversations came up about men being suicidal. But to just add some flesh to that is that it's not just that the men's suicide rate is twice what you find with women. The numbers actually show that it's 3 times, 4 times what you have with women. So it's not a case whereby it's 2 suicides for every 1 female. No, it's 3 or 4 what you have with females. And that might seem a bit shocking to us, that what's going on here and all of that. But that's the reality that we're faced with, is that a lot of men are struggling generally and even individually with whatever it is that they are going through. And hopefully, if we keep having these conversations, we can tear down certain walls, bring down and pull down certain ideologies that is somewhat boxing the men into being a certain type of way. Because we've said repeatedly across this room about the struggles that we've gone through prior to now, about the way that is expected for a man to act, to behave, to speak, to stand up to certain situations and expectations. But we need to be able to tell ourselves the truth that whilst you're a man, you're still human. And it has to resonate with us. We need to believe it and embrace it.
Alright. So this person is so for our viewers, please, one more thing, if you have any questions, you can please share your questions in the message or the comment section of the link. So we will ask, or we'll have a time of question and answer, so we can also hear from you, and it's not like we're just asking ourselves questions that we're discussing. So please share your questions, and we'll try to take as many as possible. All right, so moving to our senior executives, right?
Why are we even on this side?
You should have mixed us up.
I wish you had split it.
Okay, so
I want to move.
all right, so this is for Omokwede. How can workplaces create environments that encourage men to seek support without judgment?
It's a good question. For me, what I will just say is, so if we pick the environment in which I work in now, it's an environment where I can seek support. I always see myself as a sponge, and a sponge will basically soak a lot of things from people. So I'm never afraid to ask questions. I'm always ready to seek counsel, and I think I've been lucky in the sense that all through my career, I've always had people that, I won't call them mentors per se, but I've always said, okay, there's some fire in this guy that I can nurture. So, and I've always been able to learn from their experiences. You know, they will share their experiences with me, and I'm able to take this and use this, and also talk with my colleagues at work as well. So I think in a nutshell, it's just about, you know, being able to speak to people that you work with, let them understand some things that you might be going through, and, you know, everybody's eyes on the big picture, because if I'm doing well, I'm also going to add to the bottom line of the team. And if I'm able to tell whoever I'm reporting to or people around me that, oh, I'm having this kind of struggles, you know, I believe that I'll get, you know, the same kind of support in terms of them being able to ask what is wrong. Have you tried doing it this way, that way, you know? So those are some of the things that I think, you know, would help. You being able to speak, talk, realize that you have people who are vested in your interest as well, because they also need you to do well so that they can do well. And I think you call us senior executives and we laugh about it, but the truth about it is we lead people, and people would, you know, people you work with, they would look at how you go about doing your work and emulate it. And when they see that you are someone that can listen to them, you know, you find out that they're able to tell you things, and you can also learn from those things as well. Like I said, I'm privileged to have, you know, some level of experience in being able to understand how to navigate different terrains, so it helps. So I would also apply that in looking around me, seeking that support structure, and speaking to my fellow colleagues, male or female. For me, everybody always has something positive to add or give at any given point in time. And then I soak up these things and simply just try and apply them and try and get feedback. I think feedback is very important. It's how we handle feedback that I think is always the challenge. But when you see feedback as aiding you, you won't be bothered if it is not how you want it to be, because at the end of the day, when you hit those numbers and, you know, you look at how far you've gone and then the results and the reward, you know, it far outweighs anything that might have been said to you that might make you feel bad.
I'm also going to ask that question to you.
All right.
All right, so how can workplaces create environments that encourage men to seek support without judgment?
It's from the culture, it's from leadership. Everything starts from leadership. If you look to the top, and this is the message that's being passed down, positively or negatively, that's what will permeate. So picture, for example, we work in this organization, and you have our leader, who is a man. The way he comports himself, the way he relates to his team, the way he relates to people that he works with is one thing, because that team now spread that narrative further down. So picture you work in a place where you're in a meeting, and it could be any organization, and behavior that is counter to supporting a culture of acknowledging, quote unquote, the struggles of men, and some behavior is exhibited in a meeting, and the leader says, we won't accept this. In a polite manner, however he or she does it, we won't accept this. that message that's passed in that room, everybody in there that's a leader will take it down to the people that report to him or her, and it spreads. But it must start from the very top. That's one way. For me, the second and more important way is exactly sessions that we're having now. We're letting the organization know, and it could be any organization, we're letting the organization know that this matter is important. The well-being and health of men or any of our individuals is important, but starting from the top is what drives it. And without that, we're just talking. In our little pockets, it becomes gossip. Eventually, it becomes, why even bothering? But if it's driven from the top all the way down to our security men, I think that's a great place to start.
I love how you bring that up.
Okay,
Some
just to add to what Amechi said, I think it was just boiled down to the issue of tone from the top. First recognizing that we are first humans before we became executive, before we became company secretary, before you became ED or whatever where God has brought you to. First recognizing that common humanity that we have, and that we all go through our different struggles, and being able to make ourselves available as a shoulder for others to lean upon in their vulnerable moments, and also being not holding it against them. Because if I'm going through my challenges and I come and discuss with you, and the next time I hear it on the road, in the chat room, I will obviously
Or in the bus.
have my problem and seek help elsewhere. I think that's
so
for me
it's
very
very important that we create a safe space, like I
Yeah.
said, not just for the men, but for everybody in general, right? A safe space helps with productivity, helps with trust. It helps that we can level with each other on a level playing field and be honest and genuine with ourselves. All right, so we are moving into the health and physical side of things. So we're mostly going to be asking our doctor here. And please, if we also have anything to add, we can also add to it. All right, so for our doctor, Dr. Timlani, how are you doing? You good?
I'm good.
All right, awesome. So your question is, how can men make mental and physical health a priority without feeling like it impacts their professional image?
That is a very, very interesting question. And I'll tell you why I think it's a very interesting question. So, if there's a word we have used repeatedly in this conversation, I think anyone emanated from balance. Right? And that's a very because what I consider tricky is that what's balance for me might not necessarily be balance for you in that light. But the underlying factor there is priority. Like what informs how I balance the various elements of my life really is how I prioritize. That's really what will determine how much I'm giving to a particular aspect of my life in that sense. But I think if you drill down a little bit further, and all of this is preamble to what I'm trying to say, if you drill down a bit more, is that when we think work-life balance in its entirety, the full spectrum, there's an element of it that we often omit. So when we hear us talk work-life balance really here, a lot of that conversation, unknowingly to us, is how we're balancing work and family, how we're balancing work and maybe hanging out with our friends, or finding time to chill and socialize and things like that. But when you look at the quadrants that sort of make up that entire spectrum of balance, the most neglected is self. Is that when we think about work-life balance, the part that we oftentimes neglect is that you as an individual, you are part of that entire cycle. And we keep leaving that part out of the conversation very many times. Is that typically when someone says I'm struggling with work-life balance, what they are telling you is I'm struggling with work and maybe family demands, or I'm struggling with work and maybe some other pressure outside of work. We oftentimes don't realize that you as an individual, as an entity, you are important in that entire segment. If you aren't paying attention to you, then every other thing with time might start to kill you. So it means that if as a man, I'm going to prioritize my health and my well-being, I must first of all have that conversation about when it comes to work-life balance, what am I doing to myself? Am I what you would call today self-care? Because there is also the notion, and it's good that we're having this conversation, that when you use the word self-care, there is the assumption that it's a feminine thing. that, when you say self-care, sometimes the things that already comes to mind is spa days, or hanging out, in a sauna, or going for a trip to Dubai and things like that. There are all sorts of interesting things that come to our minds when we use the word self-care. But if as men we are going to prioritize our health and well-being, then we must be practicing self-care. We must prioritize. And I'm not talking about grooming and getting manicure and pedicure. No, I'm saying that as a man, you really want to ensure that you are taking care of you. Because part of what happens to us as men is that there is that complex that we have to take care of others. And it's fantastic. It's a good thing to have. It's a good perspective to have. But one thing we must say today is that you need to take care of you. You are also a pivotal entity in that entire mix. You must ensure that whilst you are paying the bills, as important as that is, whilst you are keeping the home together, how about you? What are your own needs? What do you really need to do? What are you doing on a daily basis that actually shows that your health really matters?
Thank you so much. Amici, this question is for you. Right? What steps have you personally taken to integrate health practices into your daily routine while maintaining your professional confidence?
It's about having several balls in the air, and while juggling, ensuring that none of them drops. So there's religion, there's family, there's self, there's whatever it is that you have to do to live life. For me, it starts in the morning. I wake up in the morning, I stretch, because being on this side of the room, we can't just get up and jump out of bed, right? So I have a good stretch, and then I pray, and then I exercise. The exercise thing I take very seriously. So that starts me off very nicely. Then you start up, you have a to-do list. Sadly, our to-do list doesn't always work out the way it's supposed to, but at least just go through the exercise of at least creating one. And when you take off one or two, you have a little celebration. Now, granted, there are 10 on the list, but 2 is okay sometimes. But so, do my to-do list. I like a cup of tea, do that, and then you come into the office. And I believe that any organization you work in, first of all, if possible, enjoy your work. Second of all, if possible, like the people you work with. And I'm lucky that I like the people I work with. So I will start off with that. How are you? How is your day? Kind of just engage them. Because when you have that kind of relationship beyond just work, you find that people have a vested interest in you and your well-being and your career. So do that. If you're in a place where you just come to work, do your work and go home, you're losing out. So there's that. Try and manage how much time you spend on your digital. People wake up before you prayed or stretched. Before you do anything, it's your device. Yeah. And that becomes a problem because it impacts your sleep, it impacts all kinds of things. Try and prioritize. Not every project you're working with, whether at work or at home, is a number one priority. It just isn't. You can't prioritize everything. Yeah. So see how you list them out. And of course, talk to your boss, talk to your supervisor, try and figure out what is important to him or her, and then go there. At home, same thing. Your bills. There are some bills that are critical, you must pay. NEPA, if you don't pay NEPA, you have a real problem. DSTV, you can kind of hold off on, so it's about prioritizing, it's about monitoring your time on devices, it's about knowing that emails will always come. So try and figure out when you can address your emails. One thing you'll never see me wearing, for example, is a smartwatch. I want to look at the time without being reminded I have 1,000 unanswered emails. That kind of just triggers me. So when I have my email time, I'll go to my system, do the email thing morning and night, and take it from there. But in my own personal time when I'm exercising or praying, if my hand is vibrating that a message has come in, that would be a problem. So it's prioritizing, is being mindful of the fact that you're juggling 5 or 6 balls. They must all stay in the air, and just trying to figure it out. If you say, I'm going to focus on just work, your wife will leave you, your kids will grow, become whatever they become, your NEPA is not paid, your cook will sell your car, things will happen. So you must figure it out. And that in itself is stressful as hell. So having friends, having a wife that cares and supports, all these things add up and just makes it a little easier.
Larry, so so it seems like we are doing a but that's not how it is.
It's so wrong. It's so wrong.
But sometimes, yeah, sometimes we have. That's why I'm coming to you now. Right? So knowing the dynamic of what it is, like I'm saying because you get what I'm saying, not. So knowing the dynamics of how it is, for our career path, when we started, we started. Let me just use the word fairly recently, right? I don't even know it's been 10 years, but still fairly recently. All right. So balancing from our point of view, right? What role do relationships play? I'm talking about family, friends, or mentors as well. What role do they play in supporting your journey in balance and health, in balancing mental and physical health?
I think they're very key. So for me, I'll say 3 things as well. First is your relationship with your significant other, whoever that is. Then you have your mentors, and then you have your friends, and your mentors, family, friends, yada. So your significant other is always going to be who you run to from time to time for emotional support, because as you grow, you've grown out of the family space where you can run back to your parents, but you still need some form of emotional support from someone. So that always counts. I think mentors help you redirect your focus, because that's what you find lacking as you grow. Because the why always changes. The why you're doing what you're doing will definitely change as you grow. Because I know my why when I started is not the same why I have now. So your mentors also will have gone through that process, and then it's easier to then tell them, oh, this is what I'm going through, this is where I'm at, this is problems I'm facing, and then they can easily help you navigate and give you advice from the top down, like, oh, this is what's going on. And then if you come down to your friends and family, largely your friends are going through, like we said, we have seemingly similar issues. Your friends will be going through the same similar issues. Like Amici said, he can wear a smartwatch. But for us, I feel like smartwatch is the only way to live, because I have a boss that's probably going to check when I check messages and when I check emails. So I need to always know what email is coming in, if it's important for me to check my phone for or respond to, or if it's something I can just gloss over and move on. Because my time technically isn't mine yet, because I still have people above me, and I also have people that I work with as well. So there's always that disconnect. But your friends would all definitely understand that. And then when you have issues at work, it's easier to relate with your peers as of, this is what I'm going through, what do you think about it? And even if it's just the same old, forget about it, Nayans or whatever it is you guys talk about, it's comforting to have someone that you can just relate things with.
It's important to surround yourself
On different levels, yeah. Because you don't have enough. We won't say we have all the exposure as of now, but you have to learn off. I think the best thing to do in life is to learn off other people's experiences and not make those experiences or mistakes yourself. So that's what we're saying.
Awesome take from you. For our doctor, what cultural or societal shifts do you think are needed to redefine the relationship between health and professional image?
And that's a very, very interesting question as well. So I think, first of all, what seems to drive our behavior when it comes to health is the perception that we have of it. I say time and time again that for a lot of us as individuals, how we evaluate how healthy we are is the frequency with which we fall ill or not. That's what a lot of people do. So a lot of people, when they want to ascertain how healthy they are, what they use is, when was the last time I was at the hospital? And it's commonplace. It's what you would find with a lot of individuals. And unfortunately, that's not an ideal metric for measuring it. Because, truth be told, and if we're being frank, a lot of us have heard of or even seen firsthand experiences whereby an individual that otherwise was healthy suddenly slumps and dies. That individual might not have been in the hospital in the last 5 years. They've not had fever, they've not had anything, and then you just hear boom, and then they're on the ground. Next thing you're wondering who can do CPR, and before you could say Jack Robinson, the person is gone. So that should give us cause to pause and ask ourselves that, so what exactly is health, or how healthy really is an individual? And that should lead us to redefining it, or better still defining it properly. That it's a complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being, and not the mere absence of a disease. And that's the World Health Organization's definition, actually. It's that it's not just about the absence of an illness. It's having that complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being. And that should form the bedrock upon which we build as we go on. Because, many times people often say that when it comes to men, we tend to have a lackadaisical attitude when it comes to our health. Is that it's either the men's psyche averagely is come what may, I can handle anything and everything, or the men's psyche is, I could just keep going, I could weather the storm, I would just keep, pushing ahead and things like that. But the reason why you would find that more prevalent is that the thinking is, I'm as healthy as long as I'm not ill. But an individual who is significantly stressed out, at that point is already unhealthy. They don't have to come down with a fever before you can tell that person is unhealthy. Because in that instance, they don't have what you would call a complete state of physical, mental, or social well-being. So I think that that's really where we need to start from, is embracing that definition, redirecting our perspective as to what exactly health is. If we believe that health is a complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being, we wouldn't joke with our comprehensive health check. That's the truth.
Awesome.
It's that the checks that we should be getting, for example, on an annual basis, we will take it seriously because we know it's a means to evaluate whether we actually have a holistic well-being in that instance. We will take, all the measures that really should be put in place seriously because we really believe that it's a complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being. But if we stick with this idea that it's just about whether or not I've been to the hospital recently, then we would most likely keep struggling when it comes to doing the right thing.
Awesome stuff. So, another question for you: how can organizations, or how do you think organizations can support men in prioritizing their health without stigma? Let me just share some more light on this, because this particular question is also somewhat personal to me as a man, because I remember a while back I had a meeting with a previous stakeholder, right? And then I went to meet this person. Oh, please, can you shed some light on my HMO benefit? Right. Shed some light on my HMO benefit, and is there provision for a therapist? Yes. And when I said therapist, basically, are you running mad, or are you planning to run mad? It was not that. It was not the case. Exactly. It was not the case. It was just me asking because I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
Because fortunately for me, I have been able to expose myself to the essence of mental health and making sure that it's a priority for you to be able to give your best at whatever organization. So, how can organizations incorporate the awareness of knowing that, okay, it's enough, or it is okay for mental to come sick? I don't want to assume that it's because I was a man asking. That's why.
No.
Yeah. So how?
And that's a very, very good question. Because it leaves us with actions that need to be taken and things that need to be put in place, so that beyond the conversations, beyond the enlightenment and all of that, we can go away with practical steps, things that we need to do. And to be honest, some of the answers have already been tabled in this conversation, but I would gladly echo them and use them as much as I possibly can. But let me preface my answer by saying that even the scenario that you are referencing is also proof that the concept of mental health isn't yet completely clear. Is that when you say mental health, typically people hear mental disorder, I've done this time and time and time again, because I've had the privilege of speaking to quite a number of audiences, both corporately and outside of the corporate space, is that if you were speaking to people and you asked that, how many of you have mental health? Do you realize it's not everybody's hand that will go up? Because while the question is, do you have mental health? What people heard was, do you have a mental disorder? Because the truth is, if we all understood it, everybody's hand should be up. That we all have mental health. But the question is whether it's, as optimal as it should be, or whether there's a struggle thereabout. But it just goes to show that when you say mental health, people hear different things. And we must continue to have those conversations so that we can demystify it. But to answer the question, it will be to first of all say that it really rises and falls on leadership. And that has been said unequivocally in this conversation, that the tone of the leader, the direction, the guidance that the leadership provides is very, very, very important. Now, let me piggyback off that and just continue to build gradually. The second thing we also now need to do is ensure that we're doing everything possible to build safe spaces. That is, within the organization, we're building, and I'm deliberate by using the word build, because what you would also find routinely is that people try to look for safe spaces rather than build it. So within an organization or in life generally, people often look for where they can go to that they will not be judged, where they will not be castigated, and things like that. And that's even at its own extreme, wherein people are looking for places where they will take no correction, no responsibility, and things like that, and they call it a safe space. But that's another misconception that we can address at a later time. But it's important that we're able to understand that we ought to build safe spaces wherein, we're able to embrace what an understanding of mental health or health generally is, and then we're doing everything we possibly can, ensuring that communication, is channeled in the right direction. We're having conversations like this to continue to push things. We have the right culture that is also driving that as well, and ultimately we can then reap the benefits of that. So first of all, leadership. Secondly, building safe spaces. Thirdly, leveraging community. Now, I believe very firmly that there's a lot we can take advantage of within the corporate space or within our various organizations. I like what you said earlier on, about enjoying the people that you're working with and things like that. Funny enough, my favorite sport is basketball. I know my height doesn't tell it, but I actually prefer basketball. And my favorite team is Golden State Warriors. And one of the emblems of the team is strength in numbers. I believe really that we can do better together. That if you build the right community, there's a lot more that we can achieve than doing it on your own. Because if I were, for example, going to try to go to the gym all by myself, consistently, routinely, I might struggle. But if there are 2-3 people that I'm doing it with, we can hold each other accountable. There's a lot more we can achieve in terms of doing it consistently and also, pulling each other. Because there'll be days wherein I'm not up to it. But just because of the other person, I'm getting the right push, the right pull that would help me to deliver on that. So we must leverage community. We must ensure that even within the organizations that we serve or that we work in, how can we build the right communities? How can we, carve people into niches wherein they are able to do some of these things together, so that at the end of the day, we're able to hold each other accountable and then rise together, when these sort of things tend to happen. So we must build those communities. I believe it's very, very important. And then lastly, it's personal responsibility. Is that you can put all these things in place and there will still be people that will not take advantage of it. You could expend a lot of resources on, setting up HMO benefits like you referenced, or even getting an EAP, which is an employee assistance program that allows for individuals within that organization to have unrestricted access to a therapist and all of that. You can put all these measures in place and people will still fold their arms and not take advantage of it. So I think that's also the last part, is that we must also talk about that role of, because when we say leadership, people sometimes just fold their arms and say it's not Kuku me, it's the leadership. But that role of personal responsibility is also pivotal.
Absolutely, I completely agree with. Do you want to add anything? You want to add anything to what he said? All right. So we have come to, or we are rounding up the show for today. And once more, thank you for everyone that joined. And Sunday, please, do you have any
closing? What I would say is that I would rather like that the conversation refocused. When we talk about work-life balance, it should actually be life-work balance for me. Because life, you must have life before you talk of work. God first created life before he said, go and till the ground. So, but when we now focus more on the work, that's where we fall into that trap that we don't think about the health. Because once the health is down, you can't wake up the next day to go for work. So we should take it as a priority to ensure that physical, emotional, and spiritual health is in good order.
Thank you so much, Sunday. Omokoje?
So in wrapping up, I think Amechi has touched on one or two things that he spoke about, exercise. I would want to leverage more on the fact that for men, we have a lot of people that are dependent on us. So we also need to, like the doctor said, self-care. Ensure that you do your annual checkups. For those of us on this side, you need to get this thing done regularly. And don't be afraid to speak. And have an inner circle of friends that don't judge you. I think for me that's very important. So people that have known you, either work career, you went to secondary school with, you went to uni with, those you play football, basketball with, those that it could be church, men's organizations and all. But you can talk. And when you can talk, people can share experiences. I think for me that's really very critical. And Sunday talked about, life-work balance. For me, you would always juggle those balls, but it's somebody that has life that can come to work. And if you don't check your health regularly, if you don't take, precautionary measures, you find out that you'll be falling ill. You're not able to give your best at work. And when you can't give your best at work, what starts to get to you is now people who are dependent on you and people who look up to you. You feel that you are not giving them your best and it starts to eat you up. But if you, try and find a way to work around these things, work and have a structure in terms of family, good friends, and people in the office that you can speak and talk to. And then, when you listen to them, you now begin to apply. It's one thing to listen and not apply. But I think it's critical that when people are speaking to you, they're speaking to you from a good place. Because they've also, been through what you're going through. And when they tell you how they've been able to walk around it, you soak that in, because at some point as well, you're also going to share that to those who will come and meet you and ask how they were able to go about this when you're younger. A lot of things have changed now, but it's still what it is really. People still need to make a living, earn a living, and people will have challenges at work. It's how you help them. Words are very powerful, and you can use words as a tool to get the best out of the people that you work with. I think that for me is really the summary of everything. That's all I'll say. Thank you
so much, Omokoje.
Having a support system, just to go further on what you talked about with friends. When you compare the friendships of men and the friendships of women, women are so much more open, so much more accommodating, so much more free to share. And men kind of lack that. But men, from what we've seen and what we're talking about, oftentimes need it more than women.
Yeah.
So my ask to men is, as an experiment, review the friends that you have, like your closest 6 perhaps, and ask yourself, can you talk to them in a free way about things that are near and dear to you, things that bother you or not? If you cannot, you have to put this friend in a category of, when it's time to go out for drinks, this is who I'll call. But exactly. But you must have those people, because I promise you, if, say I'm talking to Sunday, for example, and I have issues with my son, Sunday probably has the same concerns about his son. If I'm talking about issues with just marriage and life, of course, respect to personal space and all that, but whatever issues that you have, chances are your friends, if they're in your demographic and your age category, they have the same concerns. Concerns about work, concerns about life and love, concerns about your 7th divorce, concerns about, I'm trying to be more healthy, but it's just not entering. You find that by sharing, you can find out that these people have those things. And once you allow yourself to share, you give that person permission to also share.
Yeah.
And what you have now is finally a meaningful relationship that goes beyond how do we make money today.
Yeah.
And the making money is great, but if you're not alive to enjoy that money, then you hand it over to
Next of
hopefully
kin.
next of kin, charity, you know.
I will spend it more than you would have
I'll
spent
spend
it.
it more than you have spent it.
So-
exactly.
so-
Faster.
Exactly.
So today, this Men's Day, put your friendships to the test.
yeah.
If you can just get one or two out of your group that you're able to share with, you'll be amazed what that opening up would do.
Yeah.
Definitely. So that's my bit.
Thank you so much, Larry.
For me, same thing, like they've said. Friends and mentors. I'll just take on friends and then mentors. So for friends, I think you need to have the courage to be vulnerable. I think the main problem men have is we're not vulnerable because we always feel like there will be some laughing or some jest. But the truth is, if you have friends that will make jest of you or laugh at you when you are down, are those friends to keep? And so then the question then goes back to you: Are you really picking the right set of people as friends if you really can't have conversations with them? And then the same thing now then goes on to mentorship, because you also have to be willing to be. You have to have the courage of conviction to be vulnerable with your mentors. I remember vividly, I've spoken to Omokoji, I've spoken to Amechi as well about marriage and how do they know it's right or the right person and whatnot. They both said, "Oh, take your time," and the advice resonated with me and it has really helped. So it's a thing of being. I mean, imagine me going to them and asking them about marriage. It's a weird conversation because they're way senior. But the point is, they've done this thing, they've had the experience, they've learned from it. So it's easier to learn from them. And I'll tell you for free, senior people are more lonely than we are because we are way more in number. So it's easier for us to have way more friends. So if you're now then walk up to a senior person and try to strike up a conversation and become their friend, they'll be more open to it. But I think there's that fear of not wanting to be accountable. Because if I'm friends with this person, then the pressure of me performing then sets in. The pressure of me not letting that person down exactly sets in. So I'll rather run away from that.
Yeah.
But if you're sure that, okay, fine, I will put in the work to earn this person's trust and earn this person's guidance, and for the person to be proud of saying, this is my mentee, then you wouldn't have that fear of going up to someone and saying, oh, sir, do you think of this? And then all those your conversations will no longer be a bother because you are then someone they're proud of saying, oh, come, let's talk, let's have a quick chat. And that's where I think the mindset should grow into, that we need to also dig deep and actually be accountable for ourselves and also be vulnerable enough to share with people that actually care about us.
So much, Larry. All right, Dr. Timley.
All right. So I'll say two things as quickly as I possibly can. And Larry has said one of it, which is about being vulnerable. I think the second thing that we struggle with is trust. Is that sometimes, even when men want to be vulnerable, the question is, who do I trust? And we often get trapped in this, cycle of, in this life, trust nobody, and those kind of things. And whilst I agree that, you have to be careful with who you trust. You can't afford to trust everybody. Don't fall for the trap of trusting absolutely nobody. There must be people that you trust. It might not be a huge number. It might be scanty, but you must have 1, 2, 3 people that you can absolutely confide in. Have those conversations, like he said, that actually opens you up, helps you to, get clarity in very many cases, and that also sponsors how well you move forward. The second thing I wanted to say is it's a cliche phrase that we use when we say health is wealth. But do we really believe it? That when you evaluate how wealthy you are, do you really check how healthy you are? Does that count in the books for you as a person? That when you're checking your net worth, as it were, are you really checking your health in that entire mix of how wealthy you are? Because what you would find in many cases is it's almost as though we're running a race wherein we expend our health in pursuing wealth, and at the end of the day, we try to use that wealth to buy back our health. instead of running with a balance that ensures that we understand that health is wealth, our decisions are showing that we really believe that health is wealth. So that's really where I like to couch it, is that whilst we say repeatedly, health is wealth, health is wealth, health is wealth, do we really believe it? If we do, then our actions will show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please.
I'm so sorry. In addition to the friend aspect, be lucky and be blessed enough to have a good spouse. Because before any friend, your spouse is the closest person. We've all heard that, and the two became one. So your well-being directly impacts her well-being. So marry someone that you're able to trust, be vulnerable with, be unafraid to share with. If you marry a good wife, you're golden. Now, of course, some women are not on your side in terms of wife. We know that, right? How soon can you die? What have you left me? So we know that as well, right? Let's not be stupid about it. But just like with friends, do that experiment and just test to see, does this person, be it friend or spouse or colleague, whoever it is, does this person have my back? If you're lucky and blessed enough that she does, start there.
Absolutely. Very, very important. And we have heard some really, really salient and valid points from everyone. I just want to say thank you to everyone for their time, for joining us on this podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for the valuable insights shared. Thank you for the wisdom you have imparted on us from all cadres. Really appreciate it. And this is for our men. Men, please take care of yourselves. Prioritize your health, mental and physical. Like Sunday said, and spiritual as well, exactly. Spiritual is very important. And there. Financial, since we are there. And marital, since we are also there.
That's correct. All together.
All joy.
All right, so please put yourself in a good space. And like Sunday rightly said, and I'm going to rephrase it or Gen Z it a little bit. Now, person where they are alive, they walk. So please take care of yourself, prioritize your health, and please be positive energy to the people around you, and evaluate your friendships as well. Very, very important. Please be vulnerable. Don't be scared to be vulnerable. Find a sect of people you trust and you can truly be yourself around. And trust me, you will get the best out of yourself in every possible way. Thank you once again for joining, and to all our viewers, thank you, and see you next time on Under the Tie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.